There we go. Great, thank you.
Wow. Let's see. Entire screen. Yes. Sorry. It's been a while since I've shared my screen.
Down at the bottom, the share button.
Share.
There you go.
Cool. Okay. Let's see. But now I can't see. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna do a test of this music just to see if you can hear it. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Excellent. We're off and rolling. All right. Wow. That was quite an introduction. Thank you. So this is actually hello. I know some of you and some of you look familiar also, but hello everybody. This is like as Cantor was saying, kind of lecture discussion. I also like to put the / discussion on this. So if we have questions or comments as things come up, feel free to come off mute and ask a question. If you want to pop some things in the chat, I will keep an eye on that as well. I should also say before I start that this will not be comprehensive. There'll definitely be things that I don't cover. And then there may be answers to your questions where I say, I don't know, or I'll have to get back to you on that. But I'll do as best I can in the time given and with the information that I have. So looking forward to going through this with everybody. This is I've actually already given this lecture to the Kolot Sinai kind of lecture group we have going on, which if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. It's kind of, I have it as the history of Reform Jewish music. Quite a lot to go over. I thought I always like to start with what we already know. So what are things we already know about the history of Reform Jewish music?
It's evolved.
Correct. Yes. Good. That's good. If the answer is not much, then we came to the right place. Cool. Any differences between Reform Jewish music versus like Orthodox, conservative, that sort of thing?
Well, I think in the Reform we have more than one melody. We seem to be able to be more diverse and more inclusive, where in the Orthodox it is traditional, which, as the Cantor points out, traditional has a lot to do with where you come from, your history. But I think that's a major difference.
Fair. Yes, I run into tradition a lot with some like opera and operetta work that I've done, and I always like to say that sometimes I worry that tradition is the last bad idea that everyone remembers. But yes, there's some of that too. Cool. Any other thoughts? Did I see Leslie was going to say something? Nope.
Maybe is there more English woven into Reform songs? I don't know though.
That's certainly going to be part of what we talk about today.
Well, we don't shy away from instrumentation in the Reform movement, whereas it's not allowed in some other areas of the Jewish world.
Yep, and also
is there all? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Is there all?
Let's do Muriel and then we'll do Leslie. Go ahead, Muriel first, and then Deborah.
I just didn't hear what the Cantor had said.
Oh,
I missed her.
Oh, I just say that in the Reform movement we use instruments.
Oh,
in the Orthodox and some conservative instruments are not allowed on Shabbat.
Thank you.
Leslie, what were you going to say?
I was wondering, in the Orthodox, there's repetitions of certain parts over and over, where we don't have that repetition. We just sing something through.
Yeah, that's more of a liturgical rite than a musical choice, but yeah.
And they certainly bleed into each other. Deborah, were you going to say something?
Yes, this might be obvious, but we have women's voices.
Yep.
I think that changes the tone and the complexion and the feeling and everything to include women.
Certainly.
And more universally to include diversity in general. There's a lot of different kind of people out there and stuff, and they have different thoughts about God, and we're just trying to include everyone and encompass peace.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I was going to mention, I did some music work at a modern Orthodox high school in Long Island, and part of what was modern Orthodox about it was they let the girls sing,
Yep.
which is interesting. Cool. All right. So let me, before I get into the music, I'm going to do a brief history of Reform Judaism itself. A very brief. The late 17th and early 18th century, we have the Enlightenment. Jews began to acquire rights as citizens in European countries in which they lived, enabling them to dress as their neighbors did, study in public schools and universities, pursue occupations they desired. With the advent of Jewish emancipation and acculturation in Central Europe during the late 18th century, the breakdown of traditional Jewish life, the proper response to changed circumstances, became a heated concern. Second generation Berlin Maskilim. I should say my Hebrew and some of my German pronunciation is not bueno, so forgive me if I say something incorrectly. So they were, which means enlightened, like Lazarus Ben David and David Freelander, proposed to reduce Judaism to little above deism or allow it to dissipate entirely. A more palatable course was the reform of worship in synagogues, making them more attractive to a generation whose aesthetic and moral taste became attuned to that of Christian surroundings. And that through line is going to kind of carry with us through the story here today. So kind of put a pin in that. The first considered to have implemented such a course was the Amsterdam Ashkenazi congregation Adath Yesurun in 1796. The short-lived community enjoyed fully traditional Orthodox argumentation to legitimize its actions, but is often regarded as a harbinger by historians. A relatively thoroughgoing program was adopted by Israel Jacobson, a philanthropist from the Kingdom of Westphalia. Faith and observance were eroded for decades by both Enlightenment criticism and apathy, but Jacobson himself did not bother with those. He was interested in decorum, believing its lack in services was driving the young away. And again, kind of getting more people involved is part of the story here and how to do that. Many of the aesthetic reforms he pioneered, like a regular vernacular sermon on moralistic themes, which so basically speaking to the congregation in their native tongue on moral issues of the day, would be later adopted by modern Orthodox, which I kind of talked about earlier. In 1810, he dedicated a synagogue in Sisen that employed an organ and a choir during prayer and introduced some German liturgy. While Jacobson was far from full-fledged Reform Judaism, this day was adopted by the movement worldwide as its foundation date. That's the 17th of July in 1810. A children's service was set into which he introduced hymns that used tunes from Protestant chorales. I tried very hard for this lecture to find some Protestant chorales with Hebrew words, but I couldn't find them. But I thought that was a very interesting amalgamation that occurred at the beginning of this. The chanting of the Pentateuch and the prophets and prayers, according to traditional modes, were discarded. At this point, the new reform model retained the Chazan's title, but he was beginning to be valued less for his abilities as a soloist and more for his skill in either composing new works or arranging old melodies for the congregation to sing. I assume we're familiar with Bach. You've heard that name before. Yes, good. Okay, cool. Views into the abyss of blank stares. Okay, we're good. Yes.
Vaguely familiar. I mean, I can't quite place it.
In the Protestant world, the gig to get was Kapellmeister. That's what Liszt was. That's what Wagner was. That's what Mendelssohn was. And that this kind of role that's kind of emerging in Reform Judaism is more akin to that. with the composing and the arranging. The new arrangements may have required solo from the Chazan, but it was no longer required to sing long solos or even have a particularly good voice in order to be effective. Things are becoming more.
Sorry, I just want to interject for if just in case anybody doesn't know, chazan is the Hebrew word for a cantor. Just
Hebrew word
wanted
for
to-
what?
so you know. So, some people like to try to feminize it by calling people like me a chazanit. I don't like that. I'm just a chazan.
I wouldn't dream of saying that, so I'm glad I didn't.
I'm sorry. So are you saying that this is that that Jacobson was the first one to introduce the idea of a cantor that sings separately from the rabbi?
No, it's this new idea. It's so what he's introducing is things in the vernacular, the chorus, the organ, and the changing of the role from just singing to leading the chorus and to writing new melodies.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I'm glad you're taking notes. There'll be a test next week.
I always take notes. Okay,
That's good.
I'm ready.
Um, things are becoming more democratic with regard to who did the singing, but rather than threatening the role of the cantor, this trend enhanced it because the new responsibilities of composer, arranger, and conductor required conservatory training. The first of the great cantor composers were Solomon Sulzer, Samuel Naumburg, and Louis Lewandowski, who held posts in Vienna, Paris, and Berlin, respectively. So, all of that is my intro to now focusing on these three folks that I just mentioned. So let's we're going to listen to Hashki Venu by Salomon Sulzer. So take a listen to this. Cool. Everyone heard that okay? Wonderful.
Yes.
Thoughts, reactions?
Sounds like church music.
It sounds, go ahead, Deborah.
That's it.
By the way, in the time period when this would have been sung, you know, those upper voices would have been boy sopranos, not women.
Yeah.
It also sounds like what I would hear at Temple Emmanuel, Rav Shalom in the 50s and 60s.
Yep. And do we know what makes it sound church-like?
The organ, for one thing.
Yep. Anything else?
Well, the way the melody is constructed, and I don't really know much about music, so I can't articulate it, but it's the way it's arranged.
Yeah.
It's very hard to, it's very hard, I think it would be very hard for anybody but the cantor or choir to sing this.
Yeah, it's kind of leans back to the idea of like now there's some training that needs to happen in order to execute some of this music that's being created. Marilyn, I see you're off mute. Did you want to say something?
Oh, no, I just am sitting here listening. I just got on.
Okay, hello, welcome. Sorry, didn't mean to call you out.
Okay.
Yeah, and Deborah's right about the way it's written. So part of it is it's in major versus minor, which gives it that sound. The other thing is the very end, the last cadence is that church cadence, that amen cadence, which is literally called a church cadence, so that it's literally steeped in all of that. And there's that kind of um enlightenment, what's the word I'm looking for, assimilation, and also that kind of trying to attract more people aspect of that music. Yes.
I just wanted to point out also, you could see it if you're looking at the screen on the first line, like the use of the letter J, but it's actually being pronounced as a Y. It's an old way of transliterating Hebrew, Biura, and then also Biura Secha is also the Ashkenazi pronunciation. So that's from the old country. Today we use Sephardi Hebrew, so we would say Biura Techa. The early Reform synagogues were still using the Eastern European pronunciation, which was that tav, which is sometimes an S sound. If you think about your Hebrew, that's why we have two tavs. Okay, that's all. Sorry.
No, good stuff. So Sulzer, who wrote the piece we just heard, was an Austrian Hazan cantor and composer. His family, prior to 1813, bore the name of Levi, and was removed from Salz in 1748. He was educated for the cantorate, studying first under the cantors of uh, Endingen, Switzerland, and with whom he traveled extensively, and later under Solomon Eichberg, cantor at, oh, I'm so bad at pronouncing these. I should have practiced this. Hohenems and Dusseldorf. I know that one. In 1820, Sulzer was appointed cantor at Hohenems, and where he modernized the ritual and introduced a choir. At the insistence of Rabbi Isaac Noah Mannheimer of Vienna, he was called to the Austrian capital as chief cantor in 1826, where he reorganized the song service of the synagogue, retaining the traditional chants and melodies, but harmonizing them in accordance with modern views. And that's part of that, the major we were talking about, and the different cadence that I mentioned before. His Shir Zion, am I saying that right? Oh, yeah, great. Established models for the various sections of the musical service, the recitative of the cantor, the chorale of the choir, and the responses of the congregation. And it contained music for Sabbaths, festivals, weddings, and funerals, which has been introduced into nearly all of the synagogues of the world. In the compilation of this work, he was assisted by some of the best musical composers of Vienna. He published also a small volume of songs for the Sabbath school, entitled the Dudaim, and a number of separate compositions, both secular and sacred. His responses were tuneful, and though more melodious than a choral chant of the Catholic Church, show a strong resemblance to it. In all of his compositions, a strict attention was paid to the Hebrew text, and a scrupulous adherence to the syntactic construction is observed throughout. All right. Louis Lewandowski, you say? Go on and talk about him? I thought you'd never ask. He was a Polish Jewish and German Jewish composer of synagogal music. Synagogal is one of my favorite adjectives. His famous works were composed during his tenure as music director at the Neue Synagogue in Berlin, and his melodies form a substantial part of synagogue services around the world today. His principal works include the Kol Rina et Utefila for cantor, Toda Vezimra for mixed chorus, solo, and organ, 40 psalms for solo and chorus and organ, symphonies, overtures, cantatas, and songs. During Lewandowski's life, the issue of whether an organ should be part of a synagogue service was one of major contention. He advocated communal singing, and the organ was essential to facilitate this. Eventually, organs became commonplace in synagogues around Europe, hence the popularity of Toda Vezimra. Lewandowski's Lewandowski's writing is notable for incorporating the strict 4-part harmony of church music with ancient cantorial modal melodies. So again, we have this amalgamation of two different disciplines, and that 4-part writing that I just spoke about is very steeped in Bach, and so there's again that kind of it's not Catholic, it's the Protestant musical forms with then the Hebrew melodies. So let's listen to Ma Tovu by Lewandowski. Oh, wait, that's what we just did. Oh, wait, did I do this wrong? Hold on.
Yeah, what we just listened to was
Oh.
Tofu by Lewandowski. I think so.
Oh, great. Well, so wait, listen to the point I just made and not the other point. What happened? Hold on a second. Great. Well, I don't know what happened to my stuff. Great.
That I'm not the only.
Yep. Well, I don't know who got this guy here. Where's my seltzer? Sorry. Great. Hold on. Let me look up the other one real quick.
By the way, Lewandowski and Sulzer's work, also Abraham Binder, they often get confused. I have music on my iPad that's like, this one's by Sulzer, this one's by Binder, and they're the same exact piece. Sometimes the waters get murky, and we're not sure who composed what, but this Ma Tovu is definitely Lewandowski.
Cool.
Oh, there's Magda Fishman.
Mm.
She used to be the candle
Right.
at Bethel.
Let's listen.
Hello, everyone. Moadi sheltering us and providing us with peace.
Nope.
Amidenu.
All right. Well, here's a different seltzer piece just to go back and get some of that taste.
One of the great challenges in this world is knowing enough about a subject to think you're right.
This coming Saturday night begins the period before Rosh Hashanah, known as Selichot. Echam Ki Lechol, music director.
Cool. All right. Sorry for being a little out of order there. Reactions to that one, now that we know that was actually seltzer. I don't know if you heard, we actually started in minor there, so it was a little bit more familiar sounding as far as what we might be used to. But then that also that last cadence ended in major, which is called a Picardy third, which is a very Protestant music thing to do. So you've got that blending of the two styles there as well. Other thoughts before I go on to the next guy? Cool. All right. Until the 19th century, the roles of the Chazanim and again, basically cantors, in America were similar to the ones they played in the Old World during the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. They served as religious school teachers and singers as well. Their primary duties were not musical, although they presided at marriages and burials and chanted the service. There were no ordained rabbis in the United States until the 1840s, when the first major wave of German Jews arrived. Of course, they brought with them the reforms that had been initiated in Europe, along with the nascent musical forms. At first, the choir director and organ had more of an influence on the services than the chazan. By mid-century, the situation resembled the one that prevailed in Europe. As the services being held in Germany and France, the Hebrew texts were abbreviated. Many of the prayers were in the national tongue, English, which again, let me pause here and say that tracks with what's going on in the Christian world as well. Catholic services are not in native tongue until 1964. And so doing services in native tongue is a Protestant invention that is being kind of gleaned onto the Hebrew service here, or the Jewish service, I should say. There was an organ, and the traditional chanting had been replaced by the congregational singing of a mixed choir. It would have been impossible for a traditionally trained Chazan to lead a Reform service. Isaac Meyer Wise, a founder of the Reform movement in America, described the old-time Chazan as, quote, half priest, half beggar, half oracle, half fool, as the occasion demanded. The person to reestablish a pivotal role for the Chazan was Alois Kaiser. Kaiser had been a member of Sulzer's choir as a boy, so you got a little hand to the past there, and conservatory trained, and had served as cantor in the suburbs of Vienna. Beginning in 1866, he served as at the congregation Oheb Shalom in Baltimore. He introduced classical compositions and operatic arias to be used as melodies, and wrote his own compositions in a similar style. So here is a vote by Kaiser. Let me get back to my list.
Carrying around.
and then an ad. Cool. Thoughts, reactions?
It's Temple Emmanuel on 65th Street.
Yep.
Sounds beautiful. What year was this? The Temple Emmanuel has to be fairly recently.
Let's see.
Well, that recording was quite old.
Yeah.
Old, scratchy record.
Yeah.
So I think the images that we're seeing on the screen, like, whoever put up this YouTube video just kind of made a compilation of Jewish themed images.
But old. Because Kaiser died in 1908. and then that's the recording after that, obviously. But yeah. Cool. All right. Let's listen to Sim Shalom by Max. It's Janowski, right? With the
Janowski.
Janowski. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, cool. Let's listen to a sample, and then we'll talk about it on the back end. Cool. So we've got that kind of solo with the chorus, and it's like very operatic kind of sounding, but we're in Hebrew or in minor. So I hope we're hearing kind of those mashups, those amalgamations. Other thoughts, reactions before I talk about Mr. Janowski?
Anybody recognize this from High Holidays? We haven't done it in a few years, but used to be a staple. Love this piece.
Putting together this lecture, I was like, oh yeah, I know that name. I know that guy. Okay, yeah. Cool. So Max Janowski, he was born in 1912 and died in 1991. Composer of Jewish liturgical music, conductor, choir director, and voice teacher. He was born in Berlin into a musical family, the son of a choir director and an opera singer. As a youth, Max studied at the Kleinworth Schwarzenegger Conservatory in Berlin. In 1933, he won a piano contest, which led him to becoming the head of the piano department at the Mushashino Academia Musicae in Tokyo. My Japanese is also very bad. He emigrated to the United States in 1937 and served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. From 1938 until his death, Janowski was the music director at KAM Isaiah Israel Congregation in Hyde Park in Chicago. On January 29th, 2012, the centennial of his birth, a gala concert featuring several cantors, cantorial soloists, and area chorales was held at KAM Isaiah Israel to celebrate his life and music. All right, let's listen to another sample, and then we'll talk about it on the other end.
This is the premium Garmin Duffel 45 liter by Half Day. It's a transforming 2-in-1 travel duffel bag for long
Do we hear how the music is advancing a little bit as from where we started with the organ that was very kind of like choralish, a little bit square, even though church-like, and now it's evolving and getting a little bit not quite chromatic, but a little bit more chromatic, a little mode mixture. If you even if that wouldn't be the words we'd articulate it with it, I hope we can kind of hear how it's weaving a little bit. Other thoughts?
I wanted to clarify, Zach. This Kedusha is by Bonya Shore,
Yes.
who. Oh, okay. I just want to make sure. But so he's more contemporary, but they set this arrangement of it in a more like classical reform setting. Is that? I just want to make sure that that's
Oh,
what.
yeah.
Okay.
No, sorry. I sometimes I talk and then do the
Got it.
So I haven't said who. Yes, but it is Bonilla Shore. That's right. But that's so as we're going through forward in time, we're also progressing a little bit as far as style. So Bonilla Shore was a versatile composer. In addition to his vast liturgical repertoire, he wrote for theater, television, and film. In 1966, he collaborated with Johnny Mandel on the vocal score to the motion picture "The Russians Are Coming, The Russians Are Coming." Everyone to get from street. No, just me? Okay. In 1968, he received a National Television Academy Award for his music into the TV special Revolt in Modi'in. His orchestral music was played by the Israeli Radio Orchestra, Minneapolis Chamber Symphony, and Cincinnati Chamber Symphony. His choral works were performed and recorded by the Sarasota Chorale and Symphonic Chorus, the Nova Singers of Florida, Oshkosh Chamber Singers, and the Chicago Children's Choir, among others. In the last few years of his life, he composed 9 major commissioned works, which were premiered in Washington, D.C., New York, Philadelphia, Sacramento, Seattle, Tinton Falls, New York, Cincinnati, and Appleton, Wisconsin. Since 1960, he has written music for the dance works of choreographer Fan Shun Sher, his collaborator and wife. Mr. Sher's music is vibrant, dynamic, and highly individual. He had an extremely diverse background. He was born in Latvia, escaped the Nazi invasion, fought in the Russian army, immigrated to Israel, and lived on a kibbutz for many years before coming to the United States in 1960. His personality and his music integrated and reflected the many diverse cultural heritage in which he has lived. Yes.
So I just wanted to add, so Tinton Falls is New Jersey, and that commission was at my parents' congregation. And I sang that commission piece with him and his wife, Fan Shun, and then also the commission piece in DC. I also, my cantorial class went to DC to sing that piece with him as well. So I've worked with him a couple of times. He's since passed. The thing I remember most about him, very eccentric little guy with the biggest, whitest, bushy eyebrows you've ever seen and could imagine in your life. Yeah, he was a part of my sort of cantorial upbringing.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
The more you know. I thoughts, reactions to what I just went over or played now that we've heard a little bit about him. Cool. We're stunned into silence. I dig it. All right. So now we're gonna, in case we weren't aware, we've kind of gotten up to the 60s, so things take a little bit of a turn now. Synagogue music experienced a radical transformation in the late 1960s as sing-along tunes that originated in youth group and camp settings replaced the earlier performance-oriented style. The duo Kol Beseder, made up of Rabbi Daniel Freelander, then a voice major at the Hart School of Music, and cantor Jeff Klepper, then a Kutz-trained song leader, helped usher in the new era of Jewish liturgical folk music. So to kind of telegraph here a little bit, we've heard a lot of music with mainly organ, a little bit piano. Does anyone know the instrument we're about to get introduced that's gonna take us to the next place?
Guitar.
That's it. You did it. Yay. Look under your chair. You got a prize. All right, so I'm going to read a little bit. This is an interview between reformjudaism.org and Rabbi Freelander, who is a part of that group. So the question is, when did the shift to congregational singing accompanied by guitar begin, and what was the catalyst? Answer: the transition began in the mid-60s and was influenced by a number of dramatic events, including the anti-Vietnam War movement, the rise of Black Power and ethnic self-affirmation, and Israel's stunning victory in the Six-Day War. It was in this period that Israeli songs entered the Reform Jewish repertoire. For example, Nurit Hirsch's Oseh Shalom, written immediately after the Six-Day War, resonated with Reform Jews, becoming a liturgical mainstay in only a matter of months. Not only were many Israeli songs instant hits, the Reform music switched pronunciation from Ashkenazic to Sephardic Israeli pronunciation of Hebrew, which I think Cantor already alluded to. For example, Yiskadal v'Yiskadash to Yitgadal v'Yitgadash. Question: what were some of the other musical influences that led to the emergence of homegrown Reform Jewish songwriters in the 1960s-70s? Answer: in the late 1960s, Israel started the Hasidic and Folk Festival, which produced a lot of creative sing-along Jewish music. At the same time, Shlomo Carlebach wrote dozens of soulful, catchy melodies that had the same rhythms as popular protest songs and worked well for congregational group singing. The UAHC, Union of American Hebrew Congregations, which is now the Union for Reform Judaism, camps, played a big role by serving as incubators for Jewish composers like Michael Isaacson, who worked at Kutz Camp in the late 1960s. Debbie Friedman, who we're going to get to in a little bit, started writing music in 1970 at the Olin Sang Ruby Union Institute in Wisconsin. When Jeff Klepper and I, this is Rabbi Friedland talking, Friedlander rather, and began writing music in 1971, Union camps gave us a venue and opportunity to stay up late and experiment with new melodies. The next day, we tried them in the dining hall or at a worship service. If the group liked the song, we refined it. If they didn't, we'd throw it away and start again. Yes. Sorry, Ev.
I made a mistake. Forgive.
Oh,
Sorry.
I forget. Okay.
Zach, unfortunately, I have to sign off, but thank you so much.
No, someone will fill you in on the rest. No spoilers. Yes, Debbie.
I was just saying goodbye to Leslie.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna play a little bit of the music coming up, but I just want to point out, even though the guitar is new and the cultural things that are going on in America in the 60s are new, the idea of incorporating a kind of more modern instrument and the idea of incorporating modern things is not new. It's part of the story that we started with. It's just in a different iteration. So here's Yesh Kohavim.
Hello, everyone. This is Joe Kudla, founder and CEO of Viore, and today I'm going to walk you through.
The lyrics to this song were written by Chana Senesh, an Israeli poet and World War II war hero. In February 1943, before enlisting in the British Army, she was living on Kibbutz Sedot Yam, she wrote this Hebrew poem. There are stars whose light reaches us only after they themselves are cold and gone. There are people whose radiant memory lights the world after they are no longer among us. These lights, shining in the darkest night, are what show us the way.
Okay, come on.
יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ואינם. יש אנשים שזיו זכרם מאיר, כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד בתוכנו. אורות אלה המבהיקים בחשכת הליל, הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך. הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך.
There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are
cool. A little bit past their prime vocally, but you get the idea. Thoughts, reactions? Anything jump out?
Beautiful. Cantor, you do that song often.
We sing this one often, and actually I sing it a lot at funerals and memorial services and things like that. I wanted to point out, we're learning in our class together, there's many different versions of Jewish music out there, and even within a piece of music. So this, I'm guessing that Jeff and Danny wrote as a melody line with guitar chords, and then you see here it's with a band and a musical ensemble singing backup. So there's dozens, I'm sure, versions of this song, this setting, arranged in many different ways. And someone like Barbara Orwick at Temple Sinai, or even Zach, I might say, hey, can you make this for two-part choir? Here, can you make this for trombone and clarinet? And then another arrangement comes into the mix, and that's kind of like the evolution of Jewish music.
Yep. Yeah, I talked about the guitar, and then there's no guitar. But even moving from organ to piano, but you could also hear it's very, dare I say, guitar-ish. Yeah, and very. I hope I can hear the campness of it. So.
And the 1970s of it.
Yes. Yeah, a little like a soup song of Stephen Schwartz in there with some of those chord changes. Was like, oh, interesting there. Cool. All right. Debbie Friedman, of course, we have to talk about Debbie Friedman. Born February 23rd, 1951, died January 9th, 2011, was an American singer-songwriter of Jewish religious music, a feminist, a lover of music. She was an early pioneer of gender-sensitive language, using the feminine forms of the divine or altering masculine-only text references in the Jewish liturgy to include feminine language. She was best known for her setting of Misha Berach, the prayer for healing, which is used by hundreds of congregations across America. Her songs are used in Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox Jewish congregations, so it all kind of starts to intermix. It demonstrates her popularity within Jewish religious communities and her imprint on the Jewish liturgy. Orthodox Jewish feminist Blue Greenberg noted, quote, she had a large impact in modern Orthodox shuls, women's tefillah, and Orthodox feminist circles. She was a religious bard and an angel for the entire community. According to Cantor Harold Messinger of Beth Am, Israel, and Penn Valley, PA, quote, Debbie was the first and every contemporary Chazan song leader and layperson who values these concepts is in her debt. So let's listen to some of Debbie Friedman's music, although we're probably familiar with it.
May the one who makes peace in the high places make peace over us and over all of humanity. And we will sing Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu. EJ, come on over here. Ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru
Cool. And so on and so on. I believe that was sign language that was being done to the audience, and there was that comment about general inclusivity and kind of how Reform music does that too. So that was a good example of that.
It's very cool. So the person doing the sign language has to be multilingual. So she had to understand the meaning of the Hebrew to be able to translate, as it were, into American Sign Language, which does happen in synagogues today. At Ben's synagogue at Rhoda Shalom, they often have an ASL interpreter, but they're hard to come by because it's such a niche.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, that very folksy. I might show you a little clip. I have another clip of like it's Peter Yarrow, who recently passed away, of Peter, Paul, and Mary, with Debbie Friedman, and like all that it's very in keeping with that. And also that build up of the instrumentation where it's just guitar, right? You can kind of hear that it was like an orchestration in live action. It was just guitar and voice, and then all of a sudden the drums, and then the piano, and then even the revving up of the tempo, where it got faster and faster. It was a little klezmer like. So there's that, even though it's not klezmer music per se, but the form of it and the revving up of it. So again, a lot of just kind of things intermingling and mixing up.
Zach,
Yes.
I want to add, yeah, I keep interjecting.
Please. No, please.
When I first went to cantorial school, it was so early 2000s. We sort of all frowned on Debbie's music. Like it was really like plebeian and below us, you know, because we were these great singers and musicians. And over the years, I have come to appreciate her music so much for all of the things that you talked about, that she, you know, incorporating Hebrew and English, and being sensitive to gender and inclusivity. And then, well after I was ordained, they named my school, which is the School of Sacred Music, is now the Debbie Friedman School of Sacred Music. So we've come a very long way in even, you know, just the last 20 years. When she passed, they renamed the school in her honor. So she changed the face of Jewish music.
Yeah. And I will also say that that's a very common musical history phenomenon of what is this street public, what is this music doing here? Like that's what they said about Puccini. that's what they said about some of Tchaikovsky's work. So that's a very common thread. So
And the
nothing
Beatles.
under the sun. Say it again.
And the Beatles.
Yes, also that. Yep. Tale as old as time. All right, I'm gonna skip the Peter Yarrow for now. I'm gonna play Elohai Nitzor, which is by a new composer, Dan Nichols, and then we'll talk about him on the other end. Sorry,
If your matching set doesn't make you this excited, then you just haven't tried a Comfort set yet. Comfort is a mental health supporting brand that
Elohai Netzor Lishoni Mira Elohai Netzor Lishoni Mira. Oh my God, watch over me. Take the hurt away from how I speak. Only love flows from you. May every word I speak be true. Elohai Nesor Leshoni Mera. Elohai Nesor Leshoni Mera. When words are thrown, I'll hold my tongue and breathe the air of songs I've sung. That refrain I'll repeat. There's more to you than only me. Elohai Netzor.
I like that one. Thoughts, reactions, anything jump out at us?
I'm writing it down because I've never heard it and I want to sing it.
We should sing it.
It's so pretty.
So beautiful.
And it's also, again, a kind of a foot in two worlds. It's definitely got that kind of camp 70s sound a little bit, but it's also just a skosh of 90s like alternative rock, and some of like the chord changes and just the setting of it. It was very, and the drums, it's an interesting evolution, I think. So tell us about Dan Nichols. Okay, I thought you'd never ask. He was born in 1969 in Indiana. He attended Pike Township schools in Indianapolis. He and his parents converted to Judaism when he was 7 after his mother, quote, went on a quest for spirituality. In 1994, while living in Nashville, Tennessee, Nichols met Mason Cooper and created the band 18, performing rock music with Jewish themes and Hebrew prayers, which I guess that makes sense with the alternative sound. Prior to 18, the band, not the age, Nichols was a band member of Olskis. He previously worked as a cantorial soloist at Congregation Micah in Brentwood, Tennessee, and also has a background in opera. He performs at synagogues, Hillel's Jewish community centers, and Jewish youth camps nationwide, and his work has been recognized by the Union for Reform Judaism and NFTY, who have featured him as an artist at biennials and conventions and included his music on their Ruach compilation albums and songbooks. All right, next up, we're going to listen to Hashki Venu by Craig Taubman.
Sean Combs is a monster. I want to speak about this now because I've witnessed everything.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim.
Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim.
Ushmor Zetenu Uvoenu Lechaim Ushalom Me'ata ve'ad
I think that's our first saxophone we've heard today. Very, very smooth jazz there with a little bit of the folk there. Craig Taubman is a singer and composer known for both his Jewish liturgical music for the synagogue and his popular contemporary music. He studied music at UCLA and moved to Israel and lived there for almost 3 years, where he played in several bands and ensembles. Later, he wrote a children's album that led to a contract for music writing for the Disney Channel. In 1997, Taubman was asked by Rabbi David Wolpe. I think it's
Wolpe.
Wolpe. I've seen him, and I just haven't said his name out loud in a while. From the conservative synagogue Sinai Temple in Los Angeles to write modern music for the Friday night prayer. So let me just pause there, and because I'm gonna play kind of the last selection I have of his after this. But so we've kind of we have now an American conservative temple that is having this music written, and so we've where we started was this reform movement in Europe and how to kind of be modern with the times and how to attract the youth and how to do all of those things. And here we are in 97 in America with a conservative rabbi getting this guy to write this music with saxophone and all these interesting things towards kind of the same ideas. So different mechanisms to accomplish the same things over, a couple hundred years there. In any case, Friday Night Live, which is, as you can see, was the name of the album, was performed in the synagogue once a month at first, and then every 2 weeks, and had a musical setting with guitars, clarinets, keyboards, and several singers. Those events were popular among young audiences and were attended by more than 1,500 people at a time. The songs that Taubman wrote for this setting were gathered in an album by the name Friday Night Live, which again was what we just heard from. So again, same kind of ideas. The idea of incorporating modern aesthetics and modern and more than modern, like kind of colloquial and common musical ideas into the services and liturgical music. So I'm gonna end with Ramamu by Taubman also.
Wix gives you the power of AI to build the website you need. With full
רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו.
All right. So that's my lecture on the history of Reform Jewish music. Questions, comments?
Thank you so much, Zach. I wanted to add, so,
Sure.
you know, like with all things, we are in the middle of this story. And, you know, we've met all of the, you know, sort of my generation's singers, Jewish singer-songwriters, Noah Aronson, who's been with us, Alana Arian, and soon we're gonna have Cantor Becky Mann, who's sort of like at the very front edge of what's happening with Jewish music now. So it's exciting to get to see how it's continuing to unfold.
Sorry, everything froze for a second, so I didn't hear what you said, but I agree.
Just saying that we're in the middle of the story, and that we are living in a time where people like Noah Aronson and Alana Arian and Cantor Becky Mann can come share their music with us, and one day people will be giving lectures about them.
True. Yeah.
Thank you, Zach.
Sure. Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I couldn't imagine condensing, you know, creating a lecture on Jewish music in, you know, in an hour and a half. So thank you for doing that. It was a great, what, John? Yes, it was great and covered a lot of ground and a lot of territory. So really appreciate it. So thanks for being with us. And everyone, stay warm, enjoy the snow, and I'll be in touch via email about our upcoming meetings and materials and things that you might want and need from me. So as always, feel free to reach out with questions, and we'll see y'all soon.
Thank you so much.
You'll send an updated copy of what we worked on first, Cantor Micah?
Yep, I will.
Okay. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Zach.
Everybody, thank you.
Zach. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye. Have a good week.
Good week.
Enjoy the snow.